Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Damien Wolf. I'm coming at you again, guys, with another Diablo Immortal video. And this time, I'm going to be exploring a new piece of equipment that we actually gained on the last update. And that piece of equipment is, of course, for the Monk, which is my character. It is called the Peerless Conductor, right? So normally, guys, I just want to tell you that this Peerless Conductor, it's very much overlooked. There's a lot of other, probably a lot of fuss with the other gear, but what Peerless Conductor does is that I guess the third strike of the deadly reach now knocks enemies up into the air and dealing 15,295 damage. Now the damage actually is different per character, because this already includes all other increases in damage, your resonance, etc. And what is 15,000 to me might be different to you. Alright, now why is this deadly reach pretty good? Well, first of all, it's not that good. It actually kind of sucks. A lot of people don't use it. Normally, when you're a monk, what you're going to be using, especially for PvP, and this time mostly on PvE, people will be using the Fists of Thunder primary attack. Now, Deadly Reach is the other, the other primary attack of the Monk. Here you go. Now, what it does is, it says here, project lines of piercing force that deals 7,803 to 10,925 damage to the target, and there is a splash damage behind the target. Now, the purpose of this is to have, of course, reach. The attacks are mostly, I guess you can attack quite a distance from your enemy, and of course it does the splash damage behind. But there's a lot of issues with that. People like the other primary attack because there's a teleport on it, and it is faster than the Deadly Reach. Now, just to give you an example, here is the normal attack of Deadly Reach. So of course we don't have any enemies, so you kind of don't see the splash damage behind. But later I'll be showing you an example of that. The third strike, you can see the third strike with that big wave. That's where the effect of this Peerless Conductor gear is going to be at, right? It's supposed to knock enemies up into the air. Alright, and it deals some bonus damage. Okay. Now, how can we make this a lot, I guess, a lot more popular to use for people? I mean, why would you choose this skill? So let's make it a little better. And I think the first thing to consider to make it better is actually to increase your attack speed. Now, normally we would have some other kind of gems for that, maybe Gearzz or whatever. But what I want to use is actually this set called Vithu's Urge, and we all know that. I've already talked about it in my past videos. What it does, if you have at least 4 pieces of Vithu's Urge, the second property activates, increases the target's attack speed by 30% for 3 seconds each time you use a skill to grant a beneficial effect to yourself or a party member. So a beneficial effect can be buffs, of course. Mostly it's buffs. So here's an example. Here is the normal attack speed we have for Deadly Reach. And I have a skill called Shield of Zen. It gives us a buff of a shield, and of course a movement speed, which is related to our other gear, which I'll show you later. But basically it grants a buff, and when it grants a buff, then Vithu's Urge should activate. Then we'll see how fast our attack speed is. So that's the normal attack speed. Let's use Shield of Zen. There's a go. There's our attack speed. And grant you guys, all of those punches will deal splash damage behind. So the purpose is that we'll be dealing AoE damage with each punch. Not even just a skill, but with our normal punches, right? But Shield of Zen doesn't last forever, right? And remember, Vithu's Urge says you can only have that attack speed for 3 seconds. So after activating it, you can do your quick punches, and then it's gonna slow down again. So what I figured is that if you want to keep continuing this kind of attack speed, then we should have our other skills, grant us buffs. And that's what I did. So first of all, I'll show you the skills that I have. So for the skills for this build, we'll have Flying Kick, Shield of Zen, Flying Dragon, and 7-sided Strike. Now all of our gear adds a certain kind of element to these skills, which will make it beneficial for the build that we're going to be doing. So for example, for Flying Kick, we have another gear, which we have set here, called, no, not this one, sorry. This is a Peerless Conductor. Here you go. Spokes of the Wheel on the offhand has a skill which is called when flying. Well, the Flying Kick also temporarily increases all damage you deal by 10%, meaning that if you activate a Flying Kick skill and you already have this on your offhand, then you'll get a damage buff, you know, increasing your attack to 10%, your damage to 10%. Now this is a buff, right? It is a beneficial effect, which means that if we activate Flying Kick and we have Vithu's Urge, then our attack speed should also be faster. So let's test it out. So first, here's Shield of Zen. There you go. We have our attack speed pretty quickly. That's cool. And this time, let's use Flying Kick. Now, guys, before I use Flying Kick, I want you to know that Flying Kick does have a lot of other. There's other versions of Flying Kick. There's a spinning kick, there's the normal flying kick which you move forward. There is a type of flying kick that stuns. But the one that I'm going to use for this build, and you don't have to use this one actually, you just need to have Flying Kick. But the one that I use for this build is something here called Momentum's Flow. Now what it does is it unleashes a series of kicks at enemies in a direction, with the final kick knocking enemies away. Now it's not going to knock them very far, but it's going to be a knock-up. So it kind of fits into the theme of the knock-up, which comes from the Deadly Reach buff, or you know, the new skill that we have right now. So this is how it looks like. There you go. But what's important is that that actually grants a buff. If you look at the upper right corner, because we have Spokes of the Wheel, if we activate Flying Kick, we will have a buff here coming from Vithu's Urge, increases attack speed by 30%. And since we have that, oh no, sorry, not that, yeah, there you go. Because we activated Flying Kick, it adds 10% damage. It adds a beneficial buff for our character. That means it activates Vithu's Urge. So let's see if our attack speed will increase. So after Flying Kick, there you go. See, we actually have again an increased 30% in attack speed, which means activating Shield of Zen will grant us a increased attack speed. And if it slows down, we can do Flying Kick, and we can have the attack speed again. Now, I wanted to take this another step further, because I wanted to have almost seamless, continuous 30% attack speed. So, the other piece of equipment that I added into this build is coming from the shoulders, called the First Wind. Now, I think, well, this is a buff that I discovered way back, even during the first, you know, the early days that I become a monk. So, what it does is that each hit of 7-sided strike also temporarily decreases all damage you take by 3.5%, stacking up to 7 times. Now, this buff activates if you hit enemies with a 7-sided strike, and it is a beneficial effect and a buff again, which means it will also activate our Vithu's Urge. So we have 3 skills that does that. We now have Shield of Zen, we now have Flying Kick, and we have 7-sided strike. Now I can't test 7-sided strike here because the buff only activates if you hit an enemy, so I can't show you the attack speed. But later on, once I do the demonstration, I'll be able to show you everything. Now the third skill that we had is the Flying Dragon. The only reason why I put that in is because I needed to have a skill which actually is kind of an AoE effect with a stun, and the Flying Dragon is it's a skill that I thought would be better. I guess people would probably maybe put Imprisoned Fist or some other skill with a stun, but I like Flying Dragon because it kind of brings you out. So if you are surrounded by enemies and you use this, then you actually avoid some damage while you're in the air. And this is perfect because this build is actually what I'm going to be using for Challenge Rift later. Alright. So, once again, let's take a look at the skills. We have Flying Kick, Shield of Zen, we got Flying Dragon, 7-sided strike. Looking at the rest of the gear here, I use Pensive Crown to have the Shield of Zen increase in duration by 30%. I have Enlightenment's Blessing, which of course has a movement speed buff, increased by 25%. As I mentioned earlier, I have the First Wind on my shoulder. I have Momentum's Flow on the legs, Peerless Conductor at the main hand, and I have Spokes of the Wheel on the offhand. Now on the left side, I have at least 4 pieces of Vithu's Urge. And as I mentioned above, before in my last video, I actually have Burning Heart of Shalbes on my 2 sets, which increases the primary attack damage by 15%. Now this kind of syncs also with this build because we're going to be concentrating on the Deadly Reach. Alright, so let us test this out. Let's go to a Challenge Rift because this will be the best way to feature this because we'll have to deal with a lot of enemies and hopefully be able to survive. Alright, so let's get it on. Okay, so let's use this rift as an example. One thing we want to accomplish here is we want to be able to stagger our enemies while we're doing our Deadly Reach, and because of that new buff coming from the gear that we have, Peerless Conductor, it should be able to stagger the enemies enough, interrupting their attack animation. So this build focuses on a rotation of skills, which will continue, hopefully keep us continuously with attacks with 30% attack speed. In the meantime, also doing AoE damage. And our primary attack now does splash damage. As you can see, while we're hitting this monster, he's getting staggered, and so it is interrupting his animation of attack. Therefore, it helps protect us as well and keeps us surviving. So the skill rotation is fairly easy. You can do Flying Dragon first, stun them, then you can either use 7-sided strike. Remember, if any of the 3 skills that you use, 7-sided strike, Shield of Zen, and Flying Kick, will activate Vithu's Urge and have give you an increase of 30% attack speed. And one thing that you need to note though, because of for this particular build, is that you need to have proper positioning. It is not as effective if you are surrounded. So it's good to have them on a straight line, so that all the attacks, especially the Flying Kick, should be able to deal some good damage as well. And remember, the AoE splash damage coming from your primary attack is also in a straight line, so it's good to keep them formed up in a straight line so that you can continue damaging them from the front and also splash from behind. So let's deal with this, finish them up. And again, one cool thing about this build is I do have Shield of Zen. Normally for these kinds of builds I don't have Shield of Zen with me, but for this one I actually have them fit in, and of course it helps the build because of the increase in the attack speed. So again, all the rotations that we do will it will be beneficial for this build. We just have continuous attack speed and using the stagger effect of Deadly Reach in order to help us avoid damage. So it does interrupt their attack animation, but with proper positioning. Okay, so looks like we're almost done with this blue set. And normally for challenge rifts as well, you will get a bit of a challenge in yellow monsters, but using this build, because it does stagger them, it interrupting their attack animation, then there you go, see. Then it definitely helps beat the yellow monsters. Normally they're pretty much a challenge in challenge rifts, but with this kind of build I just found them easy to kill. Right, so let's move along and be able to find some blue monsters. but I don't think we need to find anymore because we're already at the end of the meter. So let's just kill some monsters, get to the boss quickly, and be able to be done with it. Now, for the boss battles, all of your skills will be especially useful. But you think Flying Dragon might not be as useful to some boss monsters, but it certainly helps for monsters with a lot of summons, like for example the Leoric summon. There's the Fetish. I think there's a Fetish summon, right? So the Fetish boss, sorry, and he does have a lot of Fetish summons, and Flying Dragon helps beat those minions, so that you can continue with the damage. Okay, so you can even use your ultimate, and if you use your Vithu's Urge buffs, your ultimate Hame waves also come out faster as well. So let's just finish this boss. Okay, it's not. I'm not gonna lie. It's not like the best or ultimate build, but it's certainly fun. Certainly one way to finish challenge rifts or any other instance in the game that you have multiple enemies. And it looks really cool too, and you know, just so that you can try out something different. Normally, people don't use Deadly Reach unless they are forced to, because of the fractured plane. But this time, it's actually something legitimate that you can you know, that you can already use on your other instances. Maybe not for PvP, but certainly for PvE, especially if there's a lot of monsters. So anyway, we're almost done here, and there you go, challenge rift completed. So again, guys, just make sure that you have proper positioning and be able to kill all the monsters in a straight line. Alright, thank you so much, guys. That's gonna be it for me today, and I hope to see you again in my next video. I'll see you guys on the battlefield. Bye!